Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Kim. I am the Children and Teen Young Adult Consultant with the Connecticut State Library, if anybody doesn't know that. And we're gonna go on ahead and get started. Okay, so welcome to Impacting Lives One Teen at a Time, What Directors Should Know, Transforming Teen Services Training, Connecticut Directors Edition. We're going to be going through a little bit more today than what we had originally advertised. Once I started making this presentation, it just kind of went and went. So, my name is Kim, and this is a really awkward photo of me as a teenager. It is a school photo. I'm a little upset that it still exists. I did not include this just to embarrass myself, even though it's wild to look at this. But it's important to remember what it's like to be a teenager. So that's why this is here. We want to remember what it was like to be a teenager so we can develop empathy and reintroduce ourselves to the realities of being a teen. That way we're better equipped to create programs and services that respond to the actual developmental needs and interests of teens, and not just what we think are the needs of teens. This is particularly important right now when we think about how COVID and quarantine might have affected the development of teen brains. We are years out from understanding what a year plus of quarantine, like strict lockdown quarantine, has done to developing brains. So that is always sort of at the forefront of at least my mind right now. But basically, these are just sort of the important concepts to remember when working with teens, what it was actually like when we went through it. So what is this all about? YALSA is leading a nationwide training initiative to support and elevate teen services. Transforming Teen Services integrates connected learning, computational thinking, youth development, and the pursuit of equity to help librarians think about teen services in new ways. And this is all librarians, not just teen librarians. And ultimately, to build better, intentional, age-appropriate services for and with teens. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about this initiative, and then we'll explore the major components of responsive teen services. So why is this training for directors specifically, directors, managers? So in short, you as directors, managers, supervisors have so much more power than others to implement change in your libraries. We recognize that you may also sort of have to respond to boards, first selectmen, and things like that. But within the four walls of a library building, you have so much influence on this work. You have the power to provide support, resources, and encouragement to your teen librarians or library workers who are serving teens in your library. In order for you to be able to provide that support, it seemed important to provide an overview of a teen service training initiative that's been in the works for literal years. Even though teen services vary widely from system to system, something that I personally can speak to, having worked in small, rural, affluent communities and urban communities and on bookmobiles, I get it, firsthand, I completely understand. Teens can seem noisy and messy and full of attitude. And there are positive ways to work with teens and encourage good behavior and rewarding experiences. And when working with teens, the benefits can definitely outweigh the negatives. And it's also important to have a training specifically for teen services. Those of you who are familiar with this might know that there are a wealth of trainings for our early literacy age group, supercharged story time, every child ready to read, Mother Goose on the Loose, but we can't really rattle off names of trainings like that that are teen specific. So our hope for this training, our hope, everyone who was a part of the T3 process, is that as change makers in your agency, you will leave understanding why and how libraries should be more intentional and positive with their services to teens, so you can lead your staff in rethinking teen services. That's why this is for y'all in particular. So in 2019, Connecticut joined a nationwide IMLS-funded initiative called Transforming Teen Services. We were brought in 2019 and received the Train the Trainer training, and our training in our states started in 2020. And we all remember how that started. So the initiative builds on research, projects, reports, white papers from the 2010s that rethink libraries, library services, and library education. You also collaborated with COSLA, the Chief Officers of State Library Agencies, to create a nationwide Train the Trainer initiative to spread these approaches to libraries across the US. The project was awarded an IMLS Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program grant in 2018 for a 3-year project extending from the summer of 2018 through the summer of 2021. So the 4 major component areas, like I mentioned before, are connected learning, computational thinking, youth and adolescent development, and the pursuit of equity. We're going to cover them all briefly, but we want to let you know that woven throughout Transforming Teen Services, there are several core understandings or convictions about effective, excellent teen services. Equity in access, in representation, in opportunity, and the uniqueness of teens, both as a developmental group, but also the uniqueness of each and every individual teen, and the importance of engagement and of empowering teens to find and use their voice. So this approach leads, basically, from seeing teens as essential partners in creating library services and valuable members of the community, not as scary, sullen, or impenetrable like creatures with behavioral management problems. That being said, we try to be honest and acknowledge the whole teen, behavioral challenges and all, and figure out as library workers how to accommodate and support them, and you all as directors and supervisors, how to provide support to your staff members. So here's the list again of specific training topics. T3 is, that's what we call it, Transforming Teen Services Training, T3, is highly interactive and participatory. A lot of changes have been made since we had to move from in-person in early 2020 into virtual training, and things have even grown since then. So it's highly participatory and interactive, not like regular conference programs or webinars. It demonstrates the value of social learning and also facilitation, which can be the hard part when you're sort of like boots on the ground. They are dialogue based, and we basically, like we, the trainers, try to do less than half the talking if our librarians will like work with us there. The workshops are also designed to get us into the headspace of adolescence. It's crazy how quickly as adults we can forget things that seem simple to us with our adult brains, things that aren't that serious, can be absolutely devastating to the teen brain and psyche. We approach the planning from the perspective of what it's like to be a teen, where they are developmentally, how they like to engage and learn. And then we create programs and activities that are responsive to who they are and what they like to do, and that really involves them. These are the things we're hoping to teach librarians how to do in this training. We can't tell you what to do because all communities are different. So we want to teach you how to learn and how to then turn around and teach. So here are a few truths about teens in libraries. We want them in the library. We need them in the library. Teens are patrons just like any other age of patron. If we lose them as teens, we might lose them for life. If we ignore or don't give the proper attention to 13 to 18, why would they want to come back to us later in life? We building positive relationships with teens and good adult role models such as teen librarians are an important part of the 40 developmental assets: social and emotional learning, connected learning, and in giving teens a voice to allow them to later or even currently self-advocate for what they need. When a connection is formed between staff and teens, behavioral issues can improve. We can call them out by name. They don't want to disappoint you. So building those personal relationships and connections really do matter. Discipline and restorative practices or positive interactions, they both take time and energy. Restorative practices provide long-term impact, like learning soft skills that they'll need in life. And you can spend time on discipline, or we can invest time creating positive long-term impacts, like helping them learn life skills. Discipline can result in removals or bans, right? Restorative or positive interactions can result in lasting relationships that create library supporters, which we are constantly in need of. Youth of color and low-income youth are disproportionately surveilled and disciplined in institutional settings, and that includes libraries. With knowledge, libraries can be an instrument in changing this trend. 1 in 5 youth in America come from food insecure homes. 6 in 10 have experienced some form of trauma, regardless of socioeconomic status. And these are important to keep in mind when working with teens. Libraries are hubs of information, and we can connect them with the needed resources that we know or can identify in our community. And there are some common shared truths across tons of disciplines and theories with regards to teens and people in general. Teens deserve respect just like any other age group. So just like adults, just like folks who are elderly, teens deserve that same respect. Ask them to please use appropriate behavior and provide examples of them because of some developmental differences we're going to talk about later. Explain the rules and why we need them to follow them. Give them a choice, right? They can keep their behavior in check and they can stay. If they choose to continue inappropriate behavior, they are choosing to be asked to leave, right? But then make sure you welcome them back for a second chance without assumptions. So don't let past behaviors dictate future behaviors or what you assume or think their future behaviors may be. From the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, brain development has a huge impact on behavior. And here's why, in particular in teens. So the brain develops section by section, and it develops from the back to the front. So one of the first areas of the brain to mature is the amygdala, which rules immediate reactions, such as fear, aggression, impulse, what we call lizard brain, even though lizard brain actually isn't real. I heard about it in a podcast. But one of the later parts to develop is the prefrontal cortex, which helps them finally rein in some of those impulses and use a little bit more forethought about reasoning. This area develops shockingly late, as late as 25 years old. So if the amygdala develops, or if the prefrontal cortex develops as late as 25 years old, what type of reasoning skills do we expect from 14-year-olds, right? It's ridiculous. So you can see what some of the implications of this development might be. The amygdala is telling them to act on impulse without considering consequences. And the prefrontal cortex may or may not be developed enough yet to be like, hey, that didn't work out so well the last time I played music on my phone at full volume in the library. Maybe I shouldn't do it again. silly as it seems, that is not an obvious deduction for brains that are still developing. I'm sure you can think of a few teens that you've known in person or in the library who've done something like this that seems really silly. But the most important thing to keep in mind is that it's completely normal, frustrating, but normal. So less likely to think before they act. Pause to consider the consequences of their action. Change their inappropriate behavior. Social and emotional drama, recklessness, more likely to act on impulse, to misread or misinterpret social cues and emotions, to get into accidents, to get involved in fights, and engage in dangerous or risky behavior. This is what we're working with here. So starting with, this is going to seem so simple, but starting with a positive statement like, what's going on, friend? Or happy to see you back today. Or, oh my God, did you finish that book that you got when you were here? Did you like it? Tell me what you think. Set a positive tone for interaction, especially because you have to think that teens might be walking into your building prepared for you to feel some kind of way about them, prepared for you to assume the worst about them. Get to know their names and show you have an interest in them. It helps form a connection and it helps improve behavior. Consistency is going to be key to your success, and inconsistency will destroy everything. Don't give them a pass because they're quote unquote usually good, or expect inappropriate behavior because they're quote unquote usually an issue. Would you address this behavior for any other age group? If no, if you wouldn't walk up to a 65-year-old and address their behavior, then why are you addressing it with teens? Why do we expect better of them? If you would address this behavior with anyone of any other age, then absolutely say something to them about it. Use restorative practices that we mentioned before. What happened here? Why do you think that happened? Do you stand on the table in your house like that? How could you have made that situation better? Who do you think was impacted by your actions? Put the response back on them, right? Make them identify their own behavior and talk through why it might have been a problem. Be very, very clear about the rule and what the consequences are. And remember, they might not actually know the rules. I think sometimes we assume, and you know what they say about assuming, right? They might not know, genuinely, despite how ridiculous we might think it is. Make them aware that their behavior affects others. Like, it has become difficult for others to study while you're playing your music so loud on your phone. Or the language you're using is making other patrons uncomfortable and it's making them want to leave. What are we going to do about that? So what are your current goals for teen services, right? These are the important things to think of. What are your current goals for teen services? What are your current challenges with teen services? Why are you serving teens with intention? Important things to just always keep at the forefront of your mind. From YALSA's write-up on Teens Need Libraries, approximately 14 million middle and high school students are on their own after school. 8 in 10 Americans want all children and teens to have some type of organized activity or safe place to go after school. And the hours between 3 and 6 p.m. are the peak hours for juvenile crime and experimentation with drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes. These are things that we know. Whoops, sorry. So here we go. So CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, says that there are 5 social and emotional learning competencies that teens need to develop in order to become fully formed and functional human adults. They are self-awareness, the ability to understand one's own emotions, thoughts, and values, and how they influence behavior across contexts. Self-management, the ability to manage one's emotions or thoughts. Responsible decision-making, the ability to make caring and constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions. Relationship skills, the ability to establish and maintain healthy and supportive relationships and to effectively navigate those. And social awareness, the ability to understand the perceptives of empathizing with others, right? Including those from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and contexts. So the Center for Early Adolescence at the University of North Carolina says that teens have 7 developmental needs. The developmental needs, when met, can help teens build the 5 emotional competencies that we just mentioned, basically. And they are physical activity, competence and achievement, self-definition, creative expression, positive social interactions with peers and adults, structure and clear limits, and meaningful participation. Every library provides opportunities for teens to practice and develop these developmental needs, right? But the question is your library intentionally designing programs and policies to meet these needs? I mentioned earlier that equity is at the core of everything that we're doing. Our teens come from a wide range of backgrounds, and they have different access to resources, from money to status to supportive adults, right? Many have attributes that society discriminates against, and others have attributes that society rewards. These are just facts. They are not responsible for the circumstances that influence their access to resources, and neither are their families, and neither are librarians, right? This isn't our fault either as individuals. They are born into systems that reward and penalize people based on race, gender, sexuality, financial needs, and other attributes. We want our teens to succeed, so we care about equity. What we can do is acknowledge their reality, get to know them as individuals, and understand their situation, their cultures, their identities, everything that goes into making them who they are. Then we organize library activities around accommodating the various realities that our teens carry around with them. We have to understand these nuances before we can just blindly borrow a program from someone else and expect it to work the same way with our teens and in our community. So here is a video on educational equity that we share in our online course. We are giving you all a taste of, what we hope to teach your teen librarians and what we hope you know so that you go on to empower them. It translates us into talking about connected learning, which we're going to get to after. After this video, I'm going to have a few questions for you all to answer in the chat that are the same types of questions that we discuss in our online course. So I want to show you a little bit of what we in turn are showing the teen librarians or librarians who work with teens who go through this training. But let's hit this video first. If someone could tell me in the chat if you can hear this okay, I would appreciate it.
Our education system is supposed to level the playing field by providing learning opportunities to wealthy and poor children alike. But as wealth inequality has grown to its highest level ever, we're seeing the creation of what is, in effect, a separate education system for the privileged, while at the same time, our commitment to providing quality public education for all kids has waned. More and more people are falling into poverty, and that includes their children. More than half of American elementary school students live in poverty. These kids are less likely to participate in important enrichment activities outside of school because for many kids, school is no longer a place where they can access activities like music, arts, crafts, sports, media production, and theater. This is especially true in urban areas, where funding cuts to schools for enrichment programs has been severe. By the time kids reach kindergarten, achievement gaps already exist between students of different backgrounds. By then, wealthier children will have spent over 1,000 more hours than their poorer classmates on enrichment activities such as music lessons, travel, and summer camp. They also will have spent time around other kids from similar backgrounds and around caring adults who work to curate a learning ecology for them. Enrichment activities are often fee-based, limiting access to only a portion of kids whose parents can afford them. Children and families of the top 10% of earners spend 7 times more on out-of-school enrichment programs than the bottom 10%. As wealth inequality has become more severe, test scores of wealthy and poor children have grown further apart, as have graduation rates and college enrollment. Poorer students are much more likely than wealthy students to attend schools where graduation is not the norm. We need a learning ecosystem that challenges inequality by empowering people to create opportunity together. The tools of the digital age offer new ways of expanding the reach and accessibility of learning to underprivileged youth who otherwise lack these opportunities. Young people today have the world at their fingertips. World-renowned lectures, a symphony of voices and opinions, peer-to-peer learning opportunities, and access to mentors are all a click away. If we leverage the tools of our connected age, we can create the makers and producers our era demands. If we ignore this reality, a majority of today's children could be left behind without the same economic mobility of previous generations. Our world is full of opportunities unimaginable just a generation ago. We need to make them accessible and achievable for all young people. Connected learning is an educational approach designed for our times. It makes learning relevant to all populations, not just the few. If you are a teacher or practitioner looking to get involved in connected learning.
Yes. That was just a video. We're not like endorsing that organization. Okay. These are some of the questions. These are examples of questions that we ask in our trainings, but I would actually like to hear from you all in the chat as well. Your responses are going to be different because your communities are different, but I would like for you to take a moment and put in the chat our first question. Outside of the library, can you name any free extracurricular activities that are available in your community? Go ahead and just sort of drop anything that you can think of, or if you can't think of anything at all. Okay, so the first thing we got, which is probably gonna the same across many spaces, Lynn, you can't think of anything free. We said the schools have some after school clubs, which might get us to sort of 3 or 4 o'clock, but you know, they said that 3 to 6 time slot is when a lot of miscellaneous things happen. Okay, boys and girls club activities and homework help, that's good. I know some boys and girls clubs charge. So Patricia, if your local boys and girls club does not, then that's fantastic. Youth and Family Services provide some programs. Okay, a lot of school-based things and some religious-based programs. Sports and recreation. If there are some free sports and recreational opportunities, absolutely. And I'm hoping that organizations are moving towards free things because not everybody can afford the courses or whatever clothing and things have to come with that. Oh, you have a community specifically for teens? All right, Hamden. Oh, Hartford. Yeah, Hartford's going to have a lot of things. Gaming. Oh, yeah, I love the, so Hartford Public Library has the U Media Center, but that's inside of the library. Can't think of anything. Yeah. Not too much new to the area. Yeah. Okay. Now, what about how does your library and your library's programming help to level the playing field? Think about what your library offers. Think about the video that we just watched and the disparity that's beginning to form in all communities, right? Even though a community looks like it's 100% affluent, you just never know. So how is your library's programming helping to level some of the playing fields that we saw in our last video? STEM programming for middle-aged kids, not much for teens. Yeah, that happens. When it's all free, 100%. Free is key. We're going to be offering new teen programs directed at teens starting in January. Fantastic. We're going to touch a little bit on how this is a new opportunity for us to sort of start over with teens. Free, Patricia, open access in branch libraries and in diverse neighborhoods. That's perfect. I love when that can happen with libraries who have branches. We used to have free tutoring. Yeah, COVID messed everything up. We do STEM programs for teens every month. Fantastic. Free, I love everyone's using the word free. Makerspace, large teen volunteer program. Fantastic. Ooh, a tech center, Ariel. I love that. Not every library is going to be lucky enough to have space for teens to have a space, but if you can do that, it's amazing. Yay! Okay. And our last one, what more do you wish you could do to serve youth in your communities and make opportunities available to them? Oh, Chris, I'm just reading yours from Farmington. I love that. Bigger budget. Yeah. Finances constantly get in the way. Hire more teen specific staff. I love that. Staff. Oh, more evening hours. Yeah. The building has to be open in order for teens to take advantage of it, for sure. Space and staff. Absolutely. Mental health and social services for teens, especially due to the impacts from COVID. Absolutely, Chris. These are great, you guys. Thank you. The official teen space is tiny. And I think it's important to remember, and if we were in an actual training, we would lean into this and we would maybe then start a conversation around, through the means that you do have available for you, is there anything else that can be done? And we like having a cohort model to this because the farther through the T3 modules we get, the more libraries get to know each other and their library, and the more librarians can begin to assist each other. Nothing will ever be perfect. Sometimes money is what it is. Sometimes space is what it is, although there could be opportunities for grants to expand upon some of that. Sometimes things are what they are, but if we just sort of let that barrier halt us from any type of movement, no matter how small it may seem in the moment, then we aren't really benefiting anybody. So, I'm reading Julia. Yeah, and I know that area well, having grown up there in my Connecticut days. I honestly wish we could do this all day. This type of thing is my favorite part of our T3 trainings. But so unfortunately, we have to move on to the next thing. So connected learning, that's sort of what that video was going through. But connected learning is when someone is pursuing an interest with the support of peers and caring adults and in ways that open up opportunities. That is what connected learning is, right? One of the modules. It's a fundamentally different mode of learning than traditional learning modules of like predetermined subjects or large group instruction, or when thinking about school standardized testing. The research is pretty clear that young people learn best when they are actively engaged in creating and solving problems they care about and in being supported and recognized by peers and trusted adults. Sometimes as the librarian, right? Sometimes the librarian is the mentor. Sometimes they're just providing a safe space for peer-to-peer connected learning. Connected learning does not need to be a formal event or a subject that the adult is passionate or knowledgeable about, right? We can't know everything as adults. You have an interest, we have relations, and we can find opportunities for you to grow your interest, right? That is just what connected learning is at its bare bones. So this is just an image. It's a practical handout that we provide in our workshops. It allows like the viewer, the librarian, to quickly recognize those things that they're doing that already fit into connected learning, identify those areas where they can quickly and easily implement new strategies while also planning for the future. And the most important thing with regards to connected learning is that it contains interest, relationship, and opportunities. The last three things there are just kind of like secondary or supplemental. So this is sort of the part where things get a little finicky. I will absolutely recognize that first, but we can't always just sit at the desk and wait for teens in particular, right? Not toddlers, not teens in particular to come to us. It can work initially, right? But librarians who use multiple pathways to target their teens are going to have a larger impact. So some advice, very basic things. If you had teens coming in before COVID, and or if they're starting to come back in, work on getting to know them. Again, greeting them by name, introducing yourself, remembering their name, even if you've got to like write it down. Listen to them talk about their interests and try to remember those interests and find a way to build some connection on them. If someone comes to the circ desk and you see they're checking out some manga, you might know that you just placed an order and some things are coming in. A quick aside of like, oh, we just placed an order. We've got this, and this new manga coming in, keep an eye out for them. Something simple like that. It's all about building trust with the teens. They have no reason to trust adults at all. So it's all about building trust and letting them know that you feel like they're important, like they matter just as much as our youngest patrons and our oldest. For some librarians and for some libraries, teens weren't even coming in pre-COVID. Like pre-COVID, identifying and finding teen patrons was hard. For others, COVID caused a major drop in teen participation. I saw things like what David said, about COVID affecting some of their teen tutoring programs and things like that. The new reality means that now, more than ever, right, we have the opportunity to rethink how we reach teens. As the world is opening up kind of a little bit, this is our opportunity to make change right now. That might mean meeting the teens where they are, if that's possible right now. We do understand that there are mandates and things like that. But if you can, find out where teens are hanging out and bring library services there. This might be virtually, right, through Discord or another platform, or in person at the community green or at some festival or something, right? Like, I could just go on about this all day. It might mean getting creative with the schools, right? Maybe asking the school librarian or an English teacher or National Honor Society sponsors to nominate kids to join teen advisory boards or something like that. There are teen or used to be school librarians in this Zoom right now that I personally was able to do some of that with while working in libraries. It's a lot. Have teachers take a few moments to let students participate in library activities, right? Or create something for a library display. Can you come up with some easy lunchtime table activity? It allows you to meet the students and give them a fun activity to do. Show them that, libraries are more than, shushing librarians. It just breaks that stereotype that we know, gosh darn good and well, isn't true. The key thing is to remember that we're still serving our patrons, even if it's outside of our library walls. And, for the sake of data and all of that, you can still count those interactions, just maybe in different ways. Getting them into the library shouldn't necessarily be the priority. Connecting with them should be. Getting them into the library is probably going to follow naturally. So again, connected learning, interests, relationships, opportunities. So how do we make these connections beyond the library walls? Look into the community to see who else is serving teens. This could show you where the teens are and also help develop future opportunities for those teen patrons. If you don't already have connections with outside organizations, how do you discover them? One way is community asset mapping. If you missed the state library brought in a community asset mapping workshop that was fantastic months ago, the recording and slides are all still on the website. So it's basically like making a map or a list or graphics that shows all of the businesses and organizations in your area. And then you can look on Google Maps, you can drive or walk around or whatever, and just make a note of those places. And tap into possible relationships that might exist there. A fantastic example of that was something that the Easton Public Library did for one of their summer programs, a small rural community with like one gas station, and they were still able to identify local farms and things like that to tap into to build a fantastic summer program. This doesn't even always have to be true for, the super urban places of the world where things are walkable. Where there is a will, there is a way, basically. So, short video that covers the core concepts of computational thinking, right? So we've talked about teen development with all of our brain talk. We've talked about connected learning. So here is some computational thinking. What is it? People have no idea what these words mean.
Computational thinking
Can
is
we hear
about
okay?
looking at a problem and solving it systematically, and therefore arriving at a solution that both humans and computers can understand. Essentially, it is considered the highest order of problem solving. Computational thinking is made up of 4 elements: decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction, algorithmic thinking. First of all, decomposition. Decomposition is about breaking a difficult problem down into simple and easy-to-manage parts. Second, pattern recognition. Problems come in all shapes and sizes. But amongst their many differences, there are bound to be similarities. Pattern recognition is about spotting what different problems have in common and using what's worked before to help you out again. Third, abstraction. Abstraction is all about focusing on the details that matter while ignoring the ones that don't. By applying abstraction, we can cut through fluff to get to the heart of the matter. Finally, algorithmic thinking. Algorithm is really just a big word for a set of rules. So algorithmic thinking is basically when you generate a series of simple steps that anyone can follow to solve a problem. Now, let's bring everyone together with a simple example. Meet Max. He's your average hardworking young man, trying his best to be a productive member of society. But today, Max's car has broken down. Luckily enough, he's computational thinking enabled. Let's see how he solves this problem. Max's car can't move too well. he realizes that there are two problems. He's running low on fuel, and he has a flat tire. That's the first pillar, decomposition. Now, Max has been in a similar situation before, and based on past experience, he knows that he should take care of the flat tire first. That's the second pillar, pattern recognition. He doesn't have much fuel left, but it's enough to get him to the next patrol station. So he decides to ignore that and focus on the tire. That's the third pillar, abstraction. Finally, to change a tire, Max has to use a jack to elevate his car, loosen the nuts on his tire, remove the tire, and replace it with a new one. Now that's algorithmic thinking. As you can see, computational thinking isn't just for computer scientists or programmers. In fact, many kinds of people, from mechanics, doctors, to presidents, are subconsciously applying computational thinking in their daily lives. Thanks, Max. Have a nice day at work. So why is computational thinking so important? It's not. That is, if you don't mind being left behind in the Stone Age. According to Moore's law, computing performance doubles every 18 months. That is to say, in 10 years, a $1,000 computer will be able to compute faster, more efficiently than the human brain. With technology growing at such an exponential rate, we are integrating computers more than ever before into our lives. To connect, to optimize solutions, and most importantly, to solve problems. The possibilities are limitless. The problem is, having a supercomputer carry out basic instructions and tasks is not at all economical. To make full use of a supercomputer, you'd need to know how to give super instructions. This is where computational thinking comes in, a powerful way to generate advanced solutions and manipulate computers to work for you. Now, imagine if mankind had such immense power at our fingertips. We would be solving problems faster than ever before, with laser accuracy and machine efficiency. With computational thinking and supercomputers, the dream to tackling titanic problems, such as finding a cure for cancer, can be a reality, pushing mankind beyond the final frontier and boldly go where no man has ever been before.
All right. So, computational thinking is a versatile skill set based on critical thinking and logic, basically. It enables teens and us, librarians, and really anybody to deal successfully with complex situations. And YALSA, Young Adult Library Services Association, identifies CT as an essential literacy to develop for success in a complex world. So basically, at its core, computational thinking is looking at a problem and solving it systematically. And as tech heavy as that video was, while coding and writing computer programming requires computational thinking, so does planning and preparing a meal. And so does leading a team to accomplish a project, or in fact, running a library. So what does any of that have to do with libraries, right? Thinking back to what I said before, early literacy, which libraries, just can't get enough of, early literacy skills are woven into our early childhood programming. Computational thinking skills can be woven into our teen programming. And honestly, they probably already are. If your library offers coding programs, makerspace activities like cooking or food programs, escape rooms, you're already supporting computational thinking. Just maybe you haven't thought about it that way, so maybe you're not doing it with intentionality, thus sort of beefing it up and making it a little bit more usable and effective. So this slide kind of lists out some of the approaches and concepts of computational thinking. And basically, computational thinking is really going to help teens to deeply cultivate human skills, right? These soft skills or dispositions and attitudes improve computational thinking skills, and they are improved the more a person practices computational thinking. So it's a very circular model. We want our teens to be confident in dealing with complexity, persistent in working with difficult programs, i.e. perseverance, the ability to deal with open-ended problems, the ability to communicate communicate and work with others to achieve a common goal or solution. This is essentially like the teen version of those early literacy skills we work to incorporate into our early childhood programming. So pre-COVID, there was a section called Educational Equity that was built into our Connected Learning module. But when COVID kind of forced us to pause our work and really thrust inequality into the forefront of overall conversations and minds, certain folks took a step back and looked at T3 again through a more intentional, again, we've used that word intentional quite a few times, a more intentional equity lens, and decided that it was important to create a module dedicated to equity instead of sort of building something into a different module. And that is because as of the 2010 census, admittedly, we have the 2020 stuff, but I haven't put all that into words yet. As of the 2010 census data, there were 74.2 million children under the age of 18 in the US. 46% of them were children of color. More than 16 million children in the US lived in families with low incomes below the poverty level, which at the time was $23,550 a year for a family of 4. I don't know how one person lives off that, but a family of 4. Students from low-income households are disproportionately represented in failing schools. More than 1.3 million children and teens experience homelessness each year. And if anyone attended or watched any of our people experiencing homelessness videos, it doesn't always look the way you think it does. So odds are there are people in your community who are experiencing homelessness and you would never know to look at them. Schools nationwide are hostile environments for a distressing number of LGBT students. Research shows that as an age group, teens, and when I say teens, I mean 12 to 18, receive the least financial support. Government, philanthropic, and nonprofit spending directed at teens lags far behind what is invested in children, those aged birth to 11, and young adults, meaning literally young adults, 19 and up. That 12 to 18 group receives the least financial support overall. If libraries are going to continue to identify themselves as community equalizers, we need to provide space, staff, time, and educational pursuits necessary to serve teens the same way we serve other community members. Teens are not tiny adults or tall toddlers. They are a group onto their own, and they are often overlooked. Our final video, our goal is that with proper training, understanding, care, and attention, libraries will be able to offer teen services appropriate to their community, such as those in our last little video of the day. This is also in our teen services training. This is the goal as it would look for your own community.
Hi, my name is Jamie Roy, and I've been a teen specialist here at Batesville Regional Library for nearly 6 years. Our library is a regional library located on the west side of Charlotte, North Carolina. Since I've been here at Batesville Regional Library, we have tried many things to make our library as a whole more inviting to our diverse population of teens. Our staff here, like our teens, come from many different backgrounds, and the majority have grown up in the community and attended the same schools in the past. Many know what it's like to be judged not only by their looks, but also for where they are from. We work hard to make our teens feel welcomed. All of our staff, from children's to the circulation department, are encouraged to build relationships with our teens. As a result, our teens not only seek us out in the teen department, but we often find them talking to other staff in the building, either talking to a children's librarian about their day or asking a library aide at the front desk for relationship advice. It's gotten to the point where we actually have to shoo our teens away from the desk so the adult patrons can be served. It's an awesome problem to have. We treat our teens something like co-collaborators in our department and ask their opinions on programs we are planning on doing and what programs they would like to see. Our teens always want to do something with food, so we decided to expand our monthly teen program, Measure Up Cooking, and link it to cultural months throughout the year. For Irish Heritage Month, we invited a speaker from a local Irish pub to teach us how to make Irish soda bread. And for Black History Month, the teens made chicken and waffles and discussed how they were connected to the Harlem Renaissance. Our Dungeons and Dragons program, Dewey's and Dragons, had an unexpected result in that the teens that joined in came from all walks of life, and the characters they created and played with reflected that same diversity. Another way we encourage diversity is by having discussions about topics and issues that our teens may be interested in. Aside from having our usual programs on the floor in the teen area, we began to engage our teens about topics that relate to the library and current events. We talk about what's going on in the community and how they feel about things that matter to them. For example, right now, we are promoting our community read book, The Hate You Give, and are having discussions in the teen zone with our teens about their relationship with the police in the area and if they have ever received the talk. Another thing we do is decorate our teen zone to reflect our patrons' interests and who they are. When I first came to Bays Forward Regional Library, our teen zone, although nice with our booths, it lacked any real personality or identity. I, along with my co-worker, came up with the idea to make the teen space more inviting and interesting to our teen patrons. We wanted to decorate the area to not only be inviting to our teens, but to also give them a sense that this was their space and it belonged to them. Many of our teens love listening to hip-hop and reading comic books and manga. So one month we decided to make posters of Marvel comic book covers that paid homage to iconic rap album covers and hung them in the booths in the teen area, which our teens absolutely loved, and at the end of the month they were basically fighting each other to see who gets to take which poster home when we took them down. A few of our more artistic teens have even contributed their artwork to make posters for our teen area. Seeing those teens brag about their art to their friends and showing their artwork to their family on the wall is awesome. We have continued doing this, hanging up posters, creating slideshows and book displays relating to our teens' interests and to library programming. Doing so has changed our teen area and made it more inviting to our teens. All these things contribute to giving our teens a sense of ownership of the teen area and that this is a place that they truly belong.
Cool. There we go. So, in conclusion, libraries are the perfect place to provide a safe space to learn and build relationships. We provide programs they want and need. We're a safe space to develop new skills. And like we mentioned before, we provide free access for everyone. Build relationships with your teens. Get to know their developmental needs, connected learning, computational thinking, community connections, all of that we touched base on today. And, basically, I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And remember that these types of trainings, the sort of teen services trainings that you see, they're not something that you do once you have teens in your library. They're the things you have to do to get teens in your library. Focus on teens as a group. They are not tiny toddlers, they're not tall toddlers, and they are not tiny adults. Thank you for being here. I know we are just at time. If there are any questions or anything like that, or thoughts or comments that you wanted to share, I am happy to be here. I'm going to, I know some of you are heading out, quickly drop the link to our evaluation in the chat. We'll email it out as well. Thank you all for being here. Again, you are really, really strong and powerful leaders in your library communities. And, I hope this has helped to empower you to empower your staff. If you are the teen librarian or head of the department, I hope this has empowered you. We're going to start T3 training again in 2022. But whether you do our T3 training or find other things through YALSA or whatever, I hope that this has helped in some way, shape, or form. Thank you all.